everyone to AADYA Geo Talks. I'm your host Bharti Sharma, geologist and founder of AADYA Planetary and Geoscience Research. I started this AADYA Geo Talks last year during World Space Week to start an interactive program or conversations with young researchers, with early career researchers or professionals who are working particularly in earth and planetary science. Because when I started my journey in geology, everyone used to ask me, why you study rocks? What is there to study geology? So not many people know about geology. And then I entered into planetary geology, which was also an alien subject for most of the people. So to bust that myth, I was like, okay, I have to start something like a talk show on YouTube, and AADYA Geo Talks came up. And I am absolutely thrilled and excited to have you, Davi, here. So you are an electrical engineer from Brazil, and you do really cool stuff related to control environment agriculture, which is CEA, which we will get into during the conversation. And you have incredible knack for mixing technology with sustainable agriculture and sustainable farming on Earth as well as in the space. And I must say, you are doing wonders in that domain. I found your profile when I thought that I want to be a part of Habitat Marte. Things changed and I ended up at MDRS instead of Habitat Marte, but I found your profile from there. The founder of Habitat Marte, he mentioned your name, that he has done his volunteering here, and you can just go through his profile. So there I saw that you are a science communicator and an engineer, and you're doing great things in green space as well. So I was really moved by your profile and by your work. So I was like, I have to invite this person on my talk show, and I want his expertise and knowledge shared with everyone, be it a young researcher, be it a great scientist or a professional. So you are an inspiration, seriously, ma'am. So welcome to AADYA Geo Talks. How are you, Devi?
Well, first of all, thank you for these kind words. I really appreciate. It's always good to be recognized, especially by other professionals in the sector. So thank you very much for inviting me to be here and spreading the word of space science. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm super excited too. So for those who are watching, since now afternoon or night. Now I'm based in Brazil, so good afternoon to all of you. It's a great pleasure, as I mentioned, and well, let's make this happen.
Thank you so much for coming, Devi. And so, starting this interview, starting this conversation, I would like to know your journey behind this initiative. Like, when you thought that this is my eureka moment, this is what I want to do, because you were doing electrical engineering, you are doing it, and then you entered into green space and agriculture side. So, what moved you there, or what you thought, okay, this is relatable to electrical engineering, or like, what is your story behind it?
Well, that's an exciting question. So, well, differently from much of the people that are engaged with space, because it's normal for us to hear people saying, when I was a kid, I always dreamed to be an astronaut, to go to space, looking at the stars. In my side, this is a bit different. I want to be a lawyer.
Oh,
So
wow.
the reason for that, I don't know, but I started all of this. I wanted to become a judge and so on. Then I realized, okay, I need to be a lawyer and so on. But during my journey, many things happened, and I got inspiration from, for example, from my dad, from my uncle, that they are involved with computer engineer. So until 12 years old, I was going to become a computer engineer. I decided that I was pursuing a computer science degree and so on. But once I decided to join the electrotechnician course, previous than that, I was looking for a topic that, okay, I'm not that willing to stay in front of the computer all the time, just like coding and programming, and like, this is not meant for me. I'm more hands-on guy. So when I was a kid, I was used to like break my toys, like my cars, my control remote cars, and like trying to understand what was going on there. And this is how I became aware of electrical engineering, especially on hardware development. So I started with my technician course. So I'm an electrotechnician. And this was a journey of 4 years to become an electrotechnician. But by that time, I wasn't meant to become like anything related to agriculture. But together with my pathway, I must mention that I'm natural. Like I was born in a city, a coast city called Natal. It's in the Brazilian northeast. I
Mhm.
commonly say that this is the Brazilian countryside.
Okay.
So, and I was born in this city, which is a capital. But my family, they came from the countryside of Natal. So it's
Hmm.
more far from the
Far.
capital.
Hmm.
And like my grandfather, he has a farm and so on. And I
Hmm.
like my childhood was going to the farm, seeing my grandmother irrigating the plants and so on. And when I was concluding my technician course, I was like, okay, I have a good background on microcontrollers, sensing, like sensor devices, and I want to apply this in a thing that can be useful for people.
Hmm.
And coincidentally, I was on holidays, like vacation from the technician course. I went to visit my grandma, and she was like, she's still alive, and she was like very old, like going to her plants every afternoon, like putting water in all of them. And I was like, okay, I can help her on that. Like I can provide some technological solutions, like at least to do the irrigation in an
Hmm.
automated manner. She doesn't need to do that. She can just like check if the plants are alive and put the water in a main tank.
Yeah.
And this is how everything started. So during my technician course, I was about to end this, and I was needing to do my final thesis for the
Hmm.
technician. Like we have like a thesis, it's more like a technical thesis.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I developed my first prototype of a smart greenhouse, like a small prototype
Hmm.
with basic capabilities like turning on the lights, turning on the ventilator or turning off, utilizing some temperature sensors, irrigation, and so on. And this is how everything became. This is how I decided, like, okay, I want to do this. I don't know how I will apply this. Like at the beginning, I was more oriented to indoor farming, but like to grow like seasons, like to grow plants in your home. Like I was living in an apartment by that time. I didn't have a garden, so I wanted to do something that I could cultivate,
Hmm.
that I could grow plants in my apartment. So this is how everything started. And after that, many other opportunities started to push me even more into it, which I will be discussing with more details along the conversation, because this is also involves Habitat Marte when I become
Hmm.
like aware of space farming and so on. But this is how everything started.
That's such a brilliant story. I mean, yeah, I whenever I talk to senior scientists and early career researchers, even they all have a personal story which is related to either a family member or something related to their childhood that inspired them that okay, you can do this or you should be a problem solver. And you very much summed it that every scientist is a problem solver. You solved the problem of your grandmother, and in reality you solve every agriculturist or every farmer's problem, not here on earth but also for the in space as well, which we will talk later. So you have answered pretty much about for my second question as well, that how do you bridge the gap between technology and the farming, and you demonstrated how you use your tools. But so this is something what Indian engineers always used to say, that they are creative problem solver, and that's how they relate technology with everything in science or in daily life. So what is your take on it, and how do you see your engineering side or electrical engineering side helping you in having a sustainable farming practices or green space for sure?
Sure. Well, I think this is a similar situation, like as well, like as you there in India, since both countries, Brazil and India, are like big agricultural countries.
Primary
We
activity is
supply
farming.
exactly. So this is our primary source of economy, like
Hmm.
here in Brazil. And at the same time, we also know that technological development for these sectors are still like in a step-by-step process. And there are
Hmm.
many reasons for that. First of all, like people becoming aware that there is a technology. Let's say there is a farmer that, okay, let's put in a scenario here. I'm a farmer. My dad
Mhm.
was a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer, and they had a farm, and they did
Mhm.
exactly the same thing without any technology day by day, and this worked well.
Yeah.
However, now there is technologies, and since I'm a farmer, if I have the spirit of innovation, I should look for new solutions to make my
Mhm.
life easier.
Yeah.
However, most of the farmers, what they say, I have been doing this my whole life. My dad has been doing
That
this.
is true.
My grandfather, I will not change at all. Like, I will continue doing the same. And
Mhm.
this is makes totally sense because this is the way that they're bringing money to their family, the way that they are
Mhm.
bringing food to their tables. However, like, this is the point that I realized, especially when I was working with space farming. Like when I went to Habitat Marte, giving some spoilers about this, but we were also doing some outreaching activities.
Mhm.
And I went to a local community. I was talking about a simple microcontroller, Arduino. Most
Mhm.
of people know about this because it's a very common microcontroller, simply to use. If someone is going to this control side, Arduino is the first step. So, and I was talking about, like, super exciting, talking about I'm using Arduino technology here to grow plants and so on. And then I asked, like, to young people,
Mhm.
like, who here knows about Arduino? Like, just between among a group of 10, 12 people, just two kids raised their hand. And this, like, was exactly my mind changed about, like, okay, how should I communicate to these people that there are technologies, that
Mhm.
this can make their life easy, that
Mhm.
this can, like, even save more time for their
Exactly.
lives. Because,
Mhm.
if we are talking about farming, it's a, like, hard working activity that you must be there all the time doing the management and so on, taking care of the plants,
Mhm.
irrigating and so on.
Mhm.
But we don't need to do that anymore. We can utilize our time now, instead of, for example, taking going under the sun and taking care of the plants. You can just, like, okay, check your phone, check your
Mhm.
data, check if everything is okay, doing like a supervision maybe once a week, twice a week, and you will save your time to focus in other stuff that you
Mhm.
like to do the most. Technology is
Exactly.
here to support, and this
Mhm.
is exactly what made me think, like, okay, it's not only about doing technology, doing science and technological development, but it's
Mhm.
also about communicating that these solutions can be useful to the people that
Mhm.
really needs to use this.
Yeah, I agree with you in this that what gap I feel when I am also communicating science with people or doing community projects. So they do understand the science behind it sometimes, but they don't want to adapt to the new changes which technology or science is bringing in their life because they feel okay they will be inferior at some point, and there'll be no jobs for them in future if like the current scenario with AI is that AI is taking up jobs. So everyone is feeling like okay I will be jobless if AI will take my place. They are not looking at the brighter side of it that you can level up, you can do something really good, what you want to do. You don't have to be in the mundane work of everything. Technology or AI can take your place in that. But yeah, that's our job as scientists, that we have to communicate it properly so that they understand the use of the technology and don't fear it. So this brings to my next question to you. So you co-founded EP Space BRs, and it has been quite a journey, I know. And so can you share the story behind its creation? What motivated you to join, or what motivated you to co-found it, and what is the company is about?
Sure. Okay, Space BR, it's the acronym for Explorating the Potential of Space in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured out, like, when we were starting the company, I co-founded together with another professional in telecommunications.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when we were talking about co-founding this startup, we came up with a gap in the space sector in Brazil, which was building capabilities, building knowledge for young
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm.
I had the opportunity to join Habitat Marte. This was the way that I became aware of space farming.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would never become aware of it. Maybe I wouldn't be a space farming specialist now if it was
Yeah.
not about like after my experience in Habitat Marte. So I recognize it, as you mentioned at the beginning of this talk, like you felt that people were not talking about this.
Mm.
People do not understand why is the like why are we like why we are doing space,
Mm.
why we should do research for space exploration,
Mm.
and how can I get engaged. I think this is most of the question. Like if you are an enthusiast about space, most
Mm.
people think like, okay, I don't want to be an astronaut, but okay, you don't need to become an astronaut to work
To
in the
be
space sector.
exactly.
So this is the main game changing for most of the people, because like this is a sector that is growing. There are
Mhm.
many, a lot, not many, a lot of job opportunities available. If you go on LinkedIn, you can see like if you check on SpaceX, if you check Blue Origin and so on.
Mm.
So however, you must like we don't have that many degrees oriented
Mm.
to space. You
Yeah.
should utilize one of your basic degrees, like especially in STEM careers, science,
Mm.
technology, math, engineering. So the idea is that, okay, how can I utilize the knowledge that I have right now, that I'm pursuing right now, doing my bachelor, doing my master's, or doing my PhD,
Mm.
and bring that to a space scenario?
Scenario.
And this is what we call the spinnings. It's basically developing solutions
Mm.
out Earth, for outer Earth.
Mm.
And at the same time, if you are doing something related to space, you are bringing the spin-offs, which is basically bringing the technologies that were developed for space and bringing back to Earth. So having that in mind, this is how FA Space emerged. We
Mhm.
wanted to make people aware of it. We wanted to show people that there are opportunities. You don't need necessarily to become an astronaut. If you want, awesome.
So.
This is the
Mm.
pathway.
Mm.
However, you can become a space farmer. You can become a aerospace engineer. You can work
Mm.
with space psychology.
Mm.
And this is exactly what we want to do. We want to make people aware that there is a potential,
Yeah.
there are opportunities, and you can be part of it if you want. So
Mm.
this is how the company came up.
Mm.
I work it for the company. I'm not linked anymore to a pay space. I can mention about this, but the company now is continue this journey of showing people the potential of space, inspiring youth, inspiring child, and even professionals that like, let's say, mid-career professionals that want to
Mm.
change their lives. Like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go to another sector. But it's
Mm.
like, okay, you don't need to start a bachelor degree on aerospace from scratch. You can
Exactly.
utilize your knowledge right now
Mm.
and putting into favor of space development. So, and after this journey, like we developed a lot of initiatives. We came up with the first science and technology magazine, newspaper, online magazine, talking
Wow.
about like what people in Brazil are doing in
Mm.
space sector, like showing student groups that are doing rocketry, professionals that are doing very relevant things in the sector, and so on. We show it exactly like, let's say, we open the doors of
Mm.
the new space sector.
Space.
Well,
Mm.
of course, because like we have the old space, like that we had mostly of
Mm.
oriented by the Brazilian Space Agency, but we wanted to make this a new space initiative. It's
Mm.
exactly the way that startups are doing right now.
Mm.
So, however, I'm not linked to this anymore, even though I'm still doing science communication, showing people like as we are here doing, like
Mm.
showing people that there are opportunities for the sector and so on, especially because there are two relevant things. So people who are watching this right now, imagine that you can be a generalist professional or a specialist professional. It's
Mm.
up to you. So I am a specialist in space farming now. But if I wanted to continue with FA Space BR, I must be a generalist professional. Because
Mm.
if I wanted to train people for different sectors, I must know about what is a how like a data scientist work in space, how a
Mm.
psychologist, and many people like in different with different backgrounds, how they can contribute to space. So I don't wanted to put efforts into this specifically along my pathway, along my career. That's why I decided that okay, now it's time to focus in what I'm doing best, to become a specialist in my topic. And this is how everything started, like with my let's say freelancer autonomous initiatives. Like I'm now doing consulting projects
Mm-hmm.
for companies related to ag tech, technologies for agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
for companies in indoor farming, and also like professionals that are working with space farming, specifically like agriculture for space, astrobiology, and so on. And this led me to my recent initiative that I want to mention here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if there is a space like after the video is shared, Bharti, but if you can put the link.
Mm-hmm.
I recently launched the course called Space Farming 101 together
Okay.
with a consulting company from the USA. This
Mm-hmm.
is the first online course on technologies for space agriculture. And this is exactly showing which are the technologies, what is being developed, what have been developed along 50 years of research in space agriculture, and how people can utilize all of this knowledge back here on Earth. So this is exactly what the course is about. I will share the link with you so you can share with your
I'll
public.
mention it in the video at the end and also in the thumbnail as well, so that people can go and check it out. That's really cool initiative. And
Thank you very much.
you summed it up that, space is actually for all, and you all belong to space. We all belong to space, be it a journalist, be it a doctor or engineer or a farmer, you all belong to space. And this comes to my next question, that I come across this question most of the time, that why we are spending such a billion amount or trillion amounts on space exploration when we can use that amount to create a better Earth, or to make Earth a better place. Why we are going to space? So, what is your take on this? That why we are going to space, and also please mention how CEA, your project, is contributing to that vision.
Great. Awesome. So I could talk about this like for hours. So
Oh, please do.
so first of all, it's very common to hear in Brazil. Like I'm not sure. I am sure that this is also like in the whole
The
world.
whole
Like
picture.
yes, but I like to bring this like to Brazil scenario because
Mm-hmm.
I want to explain to you why. Basically, more recently, okay, after the Brazilian Space Agency became engaged with Artemis program,
Mm-hmm.
the Brazilian Space Agency started to partner with a big institution, agriculture research institution in Brazil called Embrapa. It's the
Okay.
biggest one. They are
Mm-hmm.
like all of the crops that Brazil grows, they started from this research institution.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the best on what they are doing. And this partnership created the Brazil Space Farming Network. And this is super exciting initiative. And because they are planning to grow like sweet potatoes, which is a crop that is grown especially in Rio, Brazil. Also, like we developed this type of crop, and the environment, the weather that we have here is super favorable for this.
Mm-hmm.
And also chickpeas, and they have a lot of expertise on this, and they are now utilizing this expertise to send to space. This is super exciting. When I
Oh,
became aware of this, I was like, wow, okay, now
that's
Brazil
so
is
great.
going like is sending crops to space. That's
Exactly.
exciting. So they are like a group, a network with 13 institutions around the whole Brazil, together with the Brazilian Space Agency, many specialists in agriculture and farming in general, from CEA to GMO, like modified organisms, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So when the journalists were announcing that, um, I saw the post on Instagram, and one of these posts, there were like almost more than 1,000 um, comments, like of people, and most of the comments were like, "Ah, we are spending money," exactly as you mentioned. We are spending
Sending
money.
money.
Brazil has a lot of land. Why we are sending crops to space? Why we want to grow crops in space? Um, so like there are a lot of people facing hunger. why we are doing this. So this
Mm.
is a very common comments that we can hear, but this one is specifically like it was like I would say like a rain of comments in this type of thought.
Mm.
Um, and this made me think a lot about this. Like why this is happening? Like why people do not see the potential of this? So the first point, I want to mention that space is an extreme environment.
Mm.
So such as a desert is an extreme environment.
And
Antarctica is a cold
extreme
desert, which
environment.
is an
Mm.
extreme environment. But also, arid and semi-arid regions
Mm.
are extreme environments. And
Mm.
especially, people do not think about this. But if we are talking about a big urban center, which the air quality is not good, São Paulo, I'm based now in São Paulo capital, close to the São Paulo city, um, and the concentrations of carbon dioxide in these big urban centers are super high. They are
Mm.
not favorable to grow crops.
Mm.
So this is also an extreme environment.
Mm.
So if we think about this, we can correlate space with big urban centers, with deserts, with Antarctica, with semi-arid and arid regions,
Mm.
which means that if we can grow crops in space, we can grow crops in these
In
places.
space as well.
We can
Mm.
bring this technology back to Earth to grow crops. So, okay, Brazil has a lot of land. Why we are not growing plants here? Like, okay, like 1 week ago, we
Mm.
were having like the sky was covered with smoke because Amazonia was burning, and Amazonia is far from São Paulo. So
Mm.
people are burning this land like to grow more crops. But why? Like, which is the cost? Which is the trade-off? And this is exactly how the technologies enter, how the controlled environment agriculture enter. Because first, we are going into a scenario like I'm saying that we are going because we are already going. We cannot return back.
Back.
But climate
Mm.
change is happening. This is a
Yeah.
fact.
Mm.
So, and we will be facing even more the effects of it.
Mm.
Rise of temperature, more extreme scenarios like thunderstorms, more anyway like hurricanes and so on.
Mm.
We are seeing this everywhere.
Mm.
And growing crops like in actually in Brazil we have happen a lot flooding.
Mm.
So recently we had like almost a whole state in the south of Brazil with
Mm.
flooding. And this state, just a matter of case, like is the biggest producer of rice in Brazil. And now Brazil is needing to import rice. So what is the
Oh,
meaning? Why
huge
we
impact.
should have technologies? So that's the point. We should develop technologies to avoid the effects of climate change, to
Mm.
build more resilient systems that will grow crops independent of the temperature, of the weather, of the external environment. If we can do this in space, we can do this everywhere on Earth.
Mm.
And this is exactly like how controlled environment agriculture emerges. Because this is not, I'm mentioning here about location, but
Mm.
we can talk about many other benefits. First of them, we can grow everywhere, which means that we can grow close to the urban centers, which means that we don't need to have a big logistical transportation chain,
Mm.
like especially with trucks that
Mm.
spread a lot of carbon dioxide, like has a lot of emissions and so on.
Mm.
Another point, like we are talking about, okay, Brazil and India, we have like huge lands that we can grow everywhere. But
Exactly.
I I lived for 8 months in Saudi Arabia and I grow crops in the desert. So
Mm.
imagine that most of the usable area that they have was desert
Mm.
or open centers.
Mm.
So they do not have that much land. And if we go to other countries like that are like in Europe, also the same situation. They do not have too much land to grow crops in a global
Mm.
scale, like to feed all of their like, and especially the weather. Like in Europe, for example, is not the best to grow crops. We know that.
Exactly. Mm.
So that's why we must develop technologies to overcome these situations. Like, for example, if we can grow in a greenhouse on the desert, that's super effective because we are utilizing that land that is not used, that has
Mm.
not been used along the years.
Yeah.
And I was able to grow crops in the desert at the same way that I grow crops in Habitat Marte in the semi-arid region of Brazil. At the
Mm.
same way that the German Space Agency, they were growing crops in Antarctica for almost 5 years inside of a container.
Mm.
And lastly, but not least, if you can control the environment,
Mm.
you can manipulate the responses of your crop. So we
Mm.
can grow more high quality crops,
Exactly.
hence the yield and hence the productivity of the crops.
Mm.
So if you are talking about a system that can be resilient, be efficient, and
Mm.
still like being sustainable in a way that we are avoiding many other problems that are surrounding us, this
Mm.
is meaningful. So
Yeah.
that's the point of utilizing technologies, of bringing technology not only for space, but also
Mm.
bringing back this technology to grow crops in space
Yes.
back to Earth. And this is just that I told you I could talk about this for hours, but this is just the beginning of the talk. Like this is just the beginning of the answer, because we can mention about GMO, like we can mention about like dealing the psychological effects, like
Mm.
anyway, many other like opportunities that we are allowing now, like the farming systems, the food systems, to provide in a more innovative manner.
Exactly. That's true. That we are building the technology or building the science experiments for space, but our ultimate goal is to better our life as humans and to take care of other species as well. So I saw one TED talk on this, and the speaker, I forgot her name, but she mentioned that everyone is asking me why we are going to space. So she said, because I'm not a dinosaur. Dinosaur were there, they ruled the planet, and then they got extinct. But I have the brains and the minds to think and to go beyond my planet and to live somewhere else and take care of myself, my species, and other species as well. So that's what we are doing. We are exploring space to make our lives better on Earth and elsewhere as well. So this brings to my next question about your explaining things that, when I thought that I have to have you on board on AADYA Geo Talks, I saw all your YouTube videos and LinkedIn profile and Instagram, and I realized you have the ability to communicate science in such a simple manner that even a 5-year-old kid will understand this. So I really admire this ability of yours that you are a born science communicator. I must say this. And
Thank you very much.
And why do you believe it's essential for everyone that, as a scientist or as a someone who's working in the science domain should communicate science better? We have already discussed this, but I want to know your thoughts in detail that why science communication is better for community development and how do you do this? Like you are very smooth when you are talking about science and you are communicating science and you are very efficiently doing this like you are born with it, so born with this talent. So how do you do this and what are your thoughts on this, why science communication is like need of the hour, and what advice you have for young science communicators or who are building their career in this?
That's a good question. Like first of all, this is my mantra. Let's say like that
Hmm.
is if we do not communicate it, the scientific advancements,
Hmm.
us scientists, if we not do that, who will do that for us? That's the
Exactly.
first, like that's the starting point.
Hmm.
So as I mentioned my previous experience, like you mentioned that I was born. Okay, if I was born, I didn't realize that at the beginning, because as I mentioned my experience, like in that group of 12, 10, 12 students, I was talking about high level technology.
Hmm.
Like I was like super exciting talking about like I implemented this sensor. For me, it was super simple. Like it was super simple what I did, but
Hmm.
when I was talking to them, it was like they were bored, and
Hmm.
I was able to solve this because like my excitement was super like I was covered with excitement, and I didn't realize if the people were exactly getting the message.
Hmm.
And I had a collaborator, like another researcher that I worked together in
Hmm.
Habitat Marte during the beginning,
Hmm.
and he's more like he's not on the technology side, but he's more on the outreaching side. He did
Hmm.
a lot of extension projects and so on, especially with agriculture, with aquaponics. Actually, his expertise is aquaponics, um, and he was the one who in Brazil we say that he took my ear, like he said like, "Come on, you are doing wrong," and I was like, "Okay, okay, why I'm doing wrong?" I was talking about this, and he was like, David, first of all, like, use common language.
Hmm.
Like, people do not understand if you come up with technical language.
Hmm.
Let the technical language when you have technical experts.
Hmm.
That's the first point. If you are going to a conference, if you are going to give a talk on a big event, a technological event, okay,
Hmm.
let that moment talk about your technical background, like to use the best words and so on, because that type of people, they will
People there.
understand.
Hmm.
However, like, I will bring this example because this was like, okay, I got the point. Just explaining very quick here, aquaponics system is a system that you grow crops and
Hmm.
grow fishes together in synergy. Basically, you utilize the feces of the fishes
Hmm.
to transform this into nutrients for the plants. And this
Hmm.
is exactly how I was explaining. I was talking like the feces of the fishes and so on. And he said like, what is feces? They do not know what feces. Talk about, they are pooping. The fishes are pooping in the water. And I'm like, okay, this looks super banal, like in
Hmm.
a scientific way of speaking. But
Hmm.
this is the way that people, first they understand,
Hmm.
second they connect with you. You
Exactly.
are talking the same language as them. So
Hmm.
this is my recommendation. First of all, talk. Like, no matter if you are doing it right or wrong, but
Hmm.
start from somewhere, because especially we are all know, like, I have been, like, along my journey, once I realized the importance of communication, I have been studying a lot about storytelling and so on. We
Hmm.
all hear about storytelling, the power of it, but the only way of, that's why I say, like, if I was born, I didn't realize, but I started to train that.
Train it.
I started to train. I never do the same presentation. Like, if I'm giving a talk to you now, like, if we are talking now, like in 1 month, the
Hmm.
topic will be totally different. I will be improving like small steps.
Hmm.
So talk. Doing, it's exercising. Like, if you exercise this, you figure out, like, first, if people are understanding.
Hmm.
Second, if they are connecting with you. And
Hmm.
third, if you are really impacting, spreading your message to them.
Hmm.
So that's lead me to the second part of it, which is like, okay, we are not simply communicating. We are showing you the possibility of solving a big problem.
Hmm.
It's not like, it's like, this is my way of thinking, my way of, like, this is my purpose. Like, I like to come up with a spark
Hmm.
to other people. Like, it's not only about like talking, like, okay, what is the meaning of just talking? But like,
Hmm.
you should spread your word in a way that people will get motivated and feel impacted, in a way that they will start spreading their own word.
Hmm.
And spreading like one small spark can
Hmm.
start like a big
Big change.
fire.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the meaning of like talking and spreading what we think. And lastly, you do, there's no way for you to know what people are feeling about what you are talking if you do not ask for feedback. And this is
Hmm.
another very relevant point in science.
Hmm.
Most of the scientists, they are not willing to receive feedbacks.
Yeah.
Actually, they
That's
might
true.
hate to receive an answer from an editor to see if the paper was accepted or not.
Yeah.
Like, this is terrifying. Like, receiving feedbacks looks terrifying, but we should, as a researcher, not only as a researcher, as a scientist, but as a professional in general,
Hmm.
we should ask for feedback. If you are working in a company, ask feedback not only to your bosses, ask feedback for your team. You are working with them.
Hmm.
Like, ask what can be improved. What are your flaws? Like, okay, let them talk, like, create an environment that they will be able to talk about your flaws. It's
Hmm.
not only like, you should only talk about good things related to me. No, it's not about this.
Hmm.
But like, feel free to talk about the flaws, because this is the way that we improve. The way that, like, we, once we receive feedback, we know that, okay, I should focus on this. Okay, I should focus on that. That's why this feedback from this collaborator in Habitat Marte was like awesome, because like this was like 5 years ago almost. And I started to do like many presentations, and like, I see people excited about what I'm doing, and still, even though if I'm like, okay, I did the best presentation of my life today,
Hmm.
But still I ask, like, what do you think about this? Like, I ask people, like, do you think I was nervous? Do you think I was like, I communicated something that was not good? And sometimes even myself, I look at it, I look to my performance, I know my potential, and I look back and I was like, this is another point. Like, we are talking right now, I might watch also, I will watch our conversation,
Hmm.
because this is the way that I look at myself in another perspective, and I see, like, to criticize myself in a
Hmm.
positive manner, not criticize in a bad manner, but like providing that feedback that will, like,
Hmm.
positive feedbacks. So, okay, I could be doing better on this, I could be doing better on that, I could talk this in another way that people will understand more. So
Hmm.
these are some of my recommendations for those who want to do science communication. But the biggest point, start from somewhere. If you do
Yeah.
not talk, if you do not share your science, your work, who else will do this?
That's true. Like you have to start from somewhere at least, and I really admire this work that you always ask for their critiques. Like, did you like my talk or not? And I'm sure you're gonna ask me after this as well. Like, how was it? And I'm gonna ask you too. How was my presentation? And it's important to have yourself evaluated time to time, that wherever you are lacking, you either you ask your family, your friends, or your professional circle, or your audience as well. And you do a lot of science communication with your clientele, because you do tech consultancy, and then you talk about science and you organize workshops. So yes, you have done your work, and I really admire your work, that you are very fluent while communicating it. Even right now, you did it so well. So we have talked
Thank
enough
you.
about Habitat Marte. So let's get deeper into Habitat Marte. And I want to tell you, when I started my analog journey, that I want to be an analog astronaut before I can be an astronaut. I thought of Habitat Marte only, because this is that go-to point or first point for every analog astronaut journey. That I have to be there. I have to start my planetary geology journey from there. So I reached out to them, and things worked out. But some other things worked out before them, and then I ended up at MDRS. But so how was your volunteer program at Habitat Marte? You were a researcher there, and I know it has been a great experience, because I know the founder, I know the facility at Brazil. So how was your work experience, and what was your takeaway? And there's one more question related to this, but after your answer I'll ask this.
Okay, perfect. Well, as I will start from, like, when everything has started.
Hmm.
First of all, I was not meant to participate of Habitat Marte because I never heard about Habitat Marte.
Oh my
That
god,
was
it's
my
quite
first point.
famous for in India. Like
Yeah,
everyone wants
okay,
to go
okay.
here.
Hold on, hold on. This was like 6 years ago. I'm
Okay, yeah.
talking about 6 years
6
ago.
years ago. That's what
Habitat
talking
Marte is
about.
now like at the mission 180 something. I
Hmm.
started at mission 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
You are
Habitat Marte
the.
didn't have a greenhouse. I
Hmm.
built the greenhouse together with this collaborator, Professor Julio, the
Hmm.
founder of Habitat Marte. So we started from scratch. So
Wow.
what Habitat Marte was in the process of becoming like a self-sufficient off-grid habitat, like off-grid space analog station.
Hmm.
And this was a step-by-step process, like from changing because previously Habitat Marte was a farm. For
Hmm.
those who doesn't know, um, but I was responsible to change even the electric circuits there, like
Hmm.
to put light in some places of the station.
Hmm.
So I had the opportunity to start the project from scratch. That's why I was like, well, Habitat Marte at the beginning was not meant for me because first point, I never heard about it.
Hmm.
When I joined in graduation, like my bachelor degree, um, I was concluding my technician course and doing that project that I mentioned, like my greenhouse and so
Hmm.
on. So I was super focused on this. And when I was in calculus class, this was super interesting because I was just like, okay, I like this professor. I want to share about my project with him. And this calculus professor, I just like, I'm doing this and so on. Like, do you know some like another professor here? Like, it was just in the beginning. We all know that calculus is like first or second, the first year of
First
graduation, like
year.
of
Hmm.
bachelor. So Um, and he came to me and he was like, there is something Mars. He just say like this, there is a project from a professor here, like something Mars. He just say that. And I was like, okay, that's just enough. I will start searching for it.
Mm-hmm.
So then from the moment that he mentioned about the project to me until the moment I did my first mission, it took 6 months. But
Mm-hmm.
why? First, because I didn't want to go to a project without knowing what I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So during this period, I basically become aware of, okay, the project talks about space, but also which I'm not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, space for me was only NASA, and that's enough. But also the project talks about sustainability. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what I know, like at least
Mm-hmm.
for now.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically read the Agenda 2030 by UN, like 200 pages at that time. Like I decided, okay, I want to read everything. I want to know like how I can contribute to this project in a proper manner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Professor Julia. This was like I I had this time span, like from preparing myself mentally
Mm-hmm.
and like my background and how I could utilize that in favor of the project. And a very interesting fact, the greenhouse that today has like 120 square meters of growth area, two
Mm-hmm.
systems, when I went there, was only 12 square meters with no system, without roof. It was just a space.
You actually build it then.
Yes, that's why. Like, that's why this project was a game changing for me. I spent for almost 5 years with Professor Julio. And another relevant point. When I started, when I was going to my first mission with him, I told this to him. I was like, I want to do science. I want to
Mm-hmm.
write papers,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no idea how to do that. Please teach me how to do this. I came to Professor Julio. Today I have publications like with colleagues from NASA, from
Mm-hmm.
different institutions around the world. Like I became a good scientist also. Um, but I owe this to Professor Julio because like he took me by my hand and he said like, okay, let's start this. Like I had many failures, good points, like, but I was learning, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what's the meaningful part of Habitat Marte to me. So explaining what is for those who are watching here and might be curious about Habitat Marte. First of all, you can easily find Habitat Marte on LinkedIn, Instagram, and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So I highly recommend for those who are watching who is interested to like if want to start a journey in space. Habitat Marte, and especially in space exploration, Habitat Marte is a good start.
Mm-hmm.
So I started there from the beginning. Habitat Marte came up with this purpose that look, there is a new space. There is a space exploration, and Professor Julio told me like there is opportunity in there. Exactly what I mentioned here previously.
Mm-hmm.
So he showed me all the opportunities. He introduced me to SpaceX, which I was not aware of it. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, SpaceX was still developing the
Mm-hmm.
boosters, like
Mm-hmm.
trying to recover the boosters, not like
Yeah.
as we know SpaceX now.
Yeah.
So, and this was the beginning of my journey. So I also have like, together with Professor Julio, not only the development of the station, but also the development of the research and also the development of protocols that Marte conducts. So the station basically is like a place that you can train to become an analog astronaut,
Mm-hmm.
but take into account the sustainable space exploration. So there are many stations that they will focus on psychology effects. They are more isolated environments and so on. Like you do the extravehicular activity,
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest, let's say, outcome that Marte can provide to someone is dealing with sustainable space exploration. So if you want to train to become an astronaut, focus in water management, food production, like even psychology, because Professor Julie is a psychologist.
Psychologist. Yeah.
So yeah, and also a management, a manager actually.
Mm-hmm.
He has a bachelor in management. So it's basically that, like you utilize the concepts of psychology and management in a space station isolated from the world dealing with sustainability. And that's why the project is so powerful in a way that can impact a lot, like reaching many countries around the world, because like it's basically talking about something that is an issue on
Mm.
Earth, but also that this issue can be solved in a way that can be applied to space. So the station now has like a solar panel, like this, the greenhouse is huge and
Mm.
so on, many protocols. But another interesting fact, like um, the the way of virtual missions that maybe this was the one that you was interested to participate.
Mm.
I was brainstorming with Professor Julio during the pandemics. Like basically
Mm.
we built that together. We
Mm.
started to test virtual missions methodology together.
Mm.
Like we were brainstorming in the car, like we were returning from the station. I was taking notes, we were discussing, and like this was the way that the methodology of virtual space analog missions emerged.
Mm. Mm.
Like this is a now recognized worldwide. Like that Marte has now collaboration with, like has took people, like participants from more than 40 countries, and this
Yeah.
is huge. That's why the station became so popular, like
Popular.
so aware.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's why like the impact of my period in Habitat Marte was so huge, because like it was not only about starting my journey as a researcher, as a
Mm.
professional dealing with space farming, but
Mm.
also this took me the curiosity to go deeper in a topic that no one was talking. By that time,
Yeah.
space farming in Brazil was like blank space.
Mm.
Maybe me, Professor Julio, we published the first paper in Portuguese regarding space farming.
Mm.
So this was like at the beginning, I was not able to talk about space farming with no one in Portuguese. And this was so meaningful in a way that we needed to connect with people from outside. So we build a lot of connections. Like the network of Habitat Marte is huge nowadays, and like I took part of it. Like I was together, like knowing more people, sharing about my research with them, getting feedbacks. So that's
Mm.
why Habitat Marte is a so like exciting opportunity for those who are joining the space, like the space exploration
So. Mm.
topic or career, because
Mm.
like it brings you this motivation to search, to do research, to do science. And okay, this is the way that I want to follow in the sector. This is the
Yeah.
way that I want to contribute to this sector. And
Mm.
of course, this can be, let's say, better explored if
Mm.
someone is going to the station to leave, because like especially the methodology that we build for virtual missions is
Mm.
based on the real scenario
Videos.
of the
Mm.
station. So
Yeah.
you live exactly the same during a virtual mission. You can live this in person in the station. So this is
Mm.
how like this methodology is super exciting. Like we have the opportunity. I had the opportunity to go to the US to present this like in a conference, like
Mm.
showing the work that me, Professor Julio, and other researchers in Habitat Marte has been doing.
Mm.
So this was like super exciting. And from my takeaways, I can say that mainly this power of starting from scratch.
Mm.
This is what Professor Julio showed me. He started with a farm. Now he has like the first space analog station in the South Hemisphere. This is
That's a
huge.
big thing. That's a huge thing.
Like from the greenhouse, like from seeing that greenhouse, I remember that greenhouse without roof, and the greenhouse after 2 years, like that Mate became recognized by even by the Mars Society,
Mm.
by the first space analog station with a regular food production
Mm.
inside of this. So no one else was has done this previously. Like any other station in the world did this previously. So that Mate was the first to make this happen. So and being part of it is
Mm.
huge. And another point was like the power of collaboration, collaborating with
Mm.
people around the world. Like if you had the chance to look at my work, like it
Yeah.
was because like of that market.
Okay.
So
Mm.
like collaborating with different people, becoming aware, like dealing with different situations, like I mean not different realities, not situations, different realities, like researchers from different backgrounds. For example,
Mm.
there is one researcher from India, her name is
Mm.
Ilan. Not sure if you are aware. If you are or not, I
I
highly
am. I am.
recommend
She
you.
is a friend of mine.
Yeah, so like we started to collaborate. Like we published a paper together, and like we bring together like the reality from India and the reality to Brazil in a research that was like was about to be shared in a global like
Hmm.
conference, like the international
Yeah.
astronautical conference.
Hmm.
So this was huge. And today, Islam, she's working like she had the opportunity to work with the Indian Space Agency.
Yeah.
So like this is huge. Like seeing the people that I collaborated doing great stuff.
So,
Like Ila is one example, but like I have been collaborating with many people that somehow started from Habitat Marte or somehow
hmm.
was impacted by Habitat Marte, and now they are like professionals, like let's say top ties
That's true.
professional in the areas,
Yeah,
and this is
that's
super
true.
exciting.
Even when she was applying for MDRS, she proposed a project related to Green Hub and Green Space, which I talked to her, and she said that it is inspired by her mission or her project from Habitat Marte. So I somehow knew that you guys maybe know each other, but now I know, okay, you know each other, and that's such a wonderful thing. You actually build that station. I mean, not really build, but you actually build that station in terms of Green Hub, and you have come a long way. I didn't know that you actually started this. I knew because the founder told me that, he's one of the first earlier researchers on Habitat Marte. You should contact him. He'll give you more insights because I wanted to know what kind of geological work I can do over there. So he said he is one of the trailblazers of Habitat Marte. But I don't know, okay, that was that long back. That's
Yeah.
really quite exciting for to me to know that is this is giving me goosebumps, honestly. That's such an inspiring story. You actually build it. That's why I wanted to ask that what has changed, like what perspective you got from working there. You built everything from scratch. Nobody knew what space agriculture is. So has it changed anything related to your perspective on life in general? That's a very
Yes,
deep
like
question, I guess.
yes, I can say that in Habitat Marte, I had the opportunity, at least I might not say experience, but to
Mhm.
feel a taste of the overview effect. Like I think this is in every space analog mission. Like maybe you
Mhm.
felt that. Like
Mhm.
it's not experience. It's not like the same of looking at Earth like as an
Exactly.
astronaut doing, but like feeling the taste. And like I can say that first I became a much more like how can I say I became much more human being after living this like after experience like the missions there.
Mhm.
First, because like one of the greatest things, it was like to stop what we are doing and looking at the stars every night. Like imagine after a day working,
Mhm.
building things, doing research, you are just stopping outside, looking at the stars, like counting satellites. This was like another thing that was very exciting. Um, so like not only on the professional side, like I think this the professional side itself talks about the journey. Like I had the opportunity to do many stuff, like
Mhm.
to contribute to bigger projects and like
Mhm.
getting recognition in my sector. Like now I'm a
Mhm.
recognized like, expert
Mhm.
in what I'm doing, not
Mhm.
only in Brazil but in a global manner.
Mhm.
But as a human being, I can say that first I learned the importance of collaboration. I
Mhm.
learned the importance of like just doing it without knowing how to do it. Like you just like, okay, what we can do? Like let's start. Like this that's the first thing you can do. Start.
Mhm.
So like not only this, but another point it was like knowing that things that are coming to your life, they will come in the right moment. Like as I mentioned, I was not meant to know about Abtat Martin.
But
Like
you end up there.
what is yes, like what are the chances? Okay, like we were in the same university, but like he Professor Julio is from industrial engineering. I was electrical engineering, and like different, but like just with a talk with
Mhm.
this professor, and after like long time, this was exciting. Like I was going to Saudi Arabia, and previous than that, I booked a meeting with this calculus professor. I
Mhm.
went to talk to him. I was like, do I have any idea what you did to my life? I came to him like that because like man, your recommendation changed my life for a better
Mm,
way. I become a professional that like
mm,
it's not only concerning developed solutions, but I'm concerning the way, like in the pathway that my planet is taking, that
mhm,
the human beings and the species are taking dinner, that the biodiversity of our planet is taking. So I became like this human being that cares more about like what is happening outside, because like I think most of the people, I'm not saying that everyone, but I was one of these. I was looking super in a small sphere. I wanted to impact in a small sphere. But now I realized that I have the, let's say, the power, the potential to change
mm,
in a global scale. And this is what I do. This is, I can say that also this was like responsible for me to find my mission, my purpose, like along the journey, to find my passion. So
mhm,
like I think these are the three things that anyone, no matter the area, no matter the like whatever they are doing in their lives or with their lives, look for your passion, look for your purpose and for your mission. So Abtati Marte was part of this process of my exploration. I was exploring, let's say like that, all of these 3 points. And this is super important if you want to become like an impactful person, a person that cares with the others, that cares with the planet, that support others in their journeys.
mm,
So I think this is the highest outcome ever. It's not only like publishing a paper or being
mm.
recognized by A or by B for what I'm doing, but like sometimes just like hearing someone that, man, your talk inspired me to do this.
This, yeah.
This is good. Like this is like no, like there is no money in the whole world that can make this like more exciting than ever. Like this is what is fulfilling, and especially not only in a when you realize that this is not only impacting people from outside, but
Mhm,
also from your thing, from your inner circle. This is the best thing. Like I have a brother that like he's pursuing zoologist because he wanna like find for animals that can go to space. Like he's interested on this.
mm,
So like seeing my sister pursuing her dreams, like seeing my family becoming aware that wow, there is space technology. At the beginning, they were saying like, forget about this. Like if you're not going to space, maybe like I'm not sure, but maybe your grandsons are going to space.
space,
But
yeah.
like I'm like, hey, I'm not saying if I'm going or not. I'm saying that I'm doing it, and I'm doing it now. Like, and
Mm,
I wanna, even if I don't go, I know that I tried my best to go.
yeah.
However, to conclude this whole thought, people when they ask me, as you mentioned, like, do you want to go to space? One thing that not only Habitat Marte, but my journey in a broad perspective made me realize that I'm not going to space since the moment that I do the proper impact here on Earth. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't leave my planet if I do not contribute effectively to
Mm,
what is going on here. So this was the kind of taste of overview effect that I was able to feel while I was working in Habitat Mine. So this is my answer. Super deep.
That's so. I mean, that's seriously something. I relate to it when you said overview effect, but I I mean I had my own journey of discovering things when I was at MDRS or when I was doing my field works. But I'm a geologist, so most of the time I am in a remote area. But this feeling, this thing you said, I have maybe I have experienced a little bit at every after every field, but you experienced that at once, and I know how it changes your life and how it changes your perspective in general and how it inspires others who are your near and dear ones. Okay, see, he's doing something, I can do it too. And I totally relate to it that maybe our grandchildren are going to space, maybe we are not going to, but at least we are trying, at least we will try till at least when we are on our deathbed, that we can be sure that okay, I tried my best. Maybe I'm not there, but I tried my best. So that feeling, I totally relate to it. And I'm happy that Habitat Mate happened to you, and I get to know this uh, Habitat Marte founder and get to know about your story, and that's how we end up here. So that's a brilliant thing. This brings to my next question, and you have actually answered it very well in most of your answers. But if somebody wants to follow your path, okay, there are people who wants to carve their own path, create their own journey, but sometimes we all want some guidance, some mentorship. So if somebody wants to follow your path, that they want to be an engineer and they want to transition into agriculture, or they want to know how engineering can be a part of agriculture or space, green space or green hab things, what advice would you give to budding engineers?
Okay. As you mentioned, I kind of answered that. First of
Mhm.
all, like, find your passion, find your purpose, find
Mhm.
your mission, and just as a matter of fact, purpose is different from mission. Figure out that, because
That
most of the people, most of the people, like, I was this type of people. I thought that my purpose
I
was the
am
same of
still
my
am.
mission. So, like, first understand the difference and then start looking into it. My
Mhm.
mission, and I can mention that my mission is to positively impact people's life
Mhm.
with agriculture, space technology, and innovation. And this is what we are doing here now.
Yeah.
But what else I can recommend? Like, first of all, I, I mentioned here like about my pathway, all the greatest things that I'm doing and so on. But I want to just mention that I'm still a student, as many of who are
Yeah.
watching here. I'm still a student. I'm an undergrad student. First of all, I'm an undergrad.
Mhm.
But like, the point is, like, I also have like difficulties. I also face challenges. Sometimes I do not have the best grading in a specific discipline, in a specific course, and
Mhm.
that's totally fine because we are human beings. And I will bring first, previous than giving my takeaway, I will bring like one thing that this is a fact in the space sector. Previously, let's say in the old space like scenario, astronauts, they were meant to be focused. They were meant
Yeah.
to be like robots. They should
Mhm.
not have mistakes. They should not have feelings. They should be
Mhm.
doing everything. They should not be vulnerable. However, space now should bring, otherwise we will lose our essence in this
Yeah.
process. Space, people who are doing space, and all of the people, but if someone here is watching this and want to do space, first of all, show your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Share this with your colleague. Show that you are struggling. Ask for help.
Mhm.
This is like the first thing that everyone should do. I don't know what to do. What can I do? What I did with Professor, I wasn't aware of this when I started my journey with Professor Julio, but I told him I do not know even to write a reference in a paper. I didn't took a 10 in my final course, like in my final thesis,
Mhm.
because I didn't put any reference in my in my thesis, and the professor took points from that. And I told to Professor Julia, I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to know how to do a reference. I don't want to know how to do like how to implement the scientific methodology and so on. I
Mhm.
asked for help.
Mhm.
So look for people that are doing similar things that you are doing,
Mhm.
and especially if you find someone, like, this is for any area, but if you find someone that, okay, this person has a good pathway, like,
Mhm.
ask for them, like, what would you do, like, or ask for a mentorship. Sometimes that
Yeah.
person is not available, like, or do not have time to be a mentoring, like to do mentoring or to be a mentor, but ask for 30 minutes. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Can you give me some guidance on it? I
Mhm.
do this until now. I do this until now. I'm like 5 years, 6 years doing controlled environment agriculture. And I
Mhm.
was like, I still see like some professors that I follow on Instagram. Like,
Mhm.
this week, by the way, this week I saw one professor that she was building the course on urban farming,
Mhm.
for like another institution in another state. And I was like, Professor, is this course available? Like, for broad people? She was like, it's not available. Do you want to, but if you want to join, I
Mhm.
can invite you. It's online. So
Yeah.
you can participate. So
Mhm.
I'm not the guy that will know everything, but I can still learn with her. I can
Exactly.
learn with her
Mhm.
expertise, with her pathway. So this is for any area. And lastly, this was a recommendation from another professor that I had in my journey. He said that this was like a good experience because like it was the first time that I was invited for a group meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But like the people who was doing the talk, like who was conducting this group meeting,
Mm-hmm.
was like a postdoc from NASA that I
Mm-hmm.
have been following. Like for maybe you know like her, Lucy Paulette. I'm not sure if you ever heard about. She's from
No.
France,
Mm-hmm.
but she conducted mission on MDRS, high seas, and especially in the topic of growing plants in these environments.
Okay.
So maybe she was one of the people that like conduct most of the research at the Green Hub at the Mars Desert
MDRS.
Research Station. Yes, so and she was the one who was talking in this group meeting, and I was just like super. I got stuck. I was like, I wanted to ask questions for her, but I was like, she's from NASA. Oh my god, why can like? I was like, I wanna ask, and I got stuck, and I couldn't even open my microphone to talk. And
Oh.
I said that to my professor who
Mm-hmm.
invited me to this professor, to this advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like, Davi, she's a human being just like you.
Yeah.
Just like you. What is the difference? So this was another game changing, let's say, um, experience like that I had that I learned a lot from it that I want to share this now, like that whatever you are talking or whatever whoever you are looking to become, this person is still a human being.
Yeah.
He or he will have vulnerabilities, will have flaws, will have made mistakes along their journey,
Mm.
and it's normal. It's part of the process,
Yeah.
and this is the way that we learn.
Mm.
But as you asked, you are looking for an idea for someone who wants to join controlled environment agriculture.
Yeah.
So, um, first of all, as we know, like we are talking a lot about this, so there is a lot of resources available.
Mm.
Start from where you can start. Reading papers, reading blog posts,
Mm.
or just like finding someone to talk about this. Like India is doing a lot of initiatives with vertical farming and so
Yeah.
on. Like,
Mm.
let's say last week I was reading a paper from blockchain in vertical farm that I never heard about this. And like people, researchers from India were doing that.
Doing it. Yeah.
So like if it's not in your local, let's say in your local environment, in your country, look for people
Mm.
from abroad.
Yeah.
But start from somewhere that you can start. Like, um, it's like do with the resources that you have right now,
Mm-hmm.
while you don't have the best resource to do even better.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Mm.
So yeah, that's my outcome. So if you are interested, if someone here is watching and is interested in pursuing the controlled environment agriculture, space farming, and so on, like what I can say is that from my side, I have a lot of presentations that are available online,
Mm.
especially in Habitat Marte YouTube channel. Like I conducted presentations, like 1 hour presentations,
Yeah.
totally technical presentations.
Mm.
And if someone is interested, like start from somewhere, read a
Yeah.
paper or look for a webinar, or like this talk is the beginning. Why
Yeah.
not? So this can be a beginning. So that's my outcome, and especially like do this not only with the idea to do to space, like for something outside. Look this as a personal fulfillment that you are contributing to a bigger cause, like to our planet, to our spaceship, like as people say, like our spaceship
Ship.
called Earth.
Yeah.
Yes, like this is the spaceship that we should take care of the environmental control and life
Yeah.
support systems, the bioregenerative systems that we have here. So everything is here. So start to implement this knowledge that you have in a way
Mm.
to contribute to what we already have here available. That's my
That's
outcome.
that's totally a great path because people often, like, if they are doing their BTech or doing their bachelor's, they don't know where to go. So some people reach out to me on LinkedIn or sometimes on Instagram that you started planetary geology, which is still a new field in India. Not many people are doing it, and they reach out to me with a question like where we can start it from. There is no internship related to this field. I only two institutes are offering the internship for it, where we can go. There's only internship in US. We can't go there, so how we can do things? So I always tell them that you can still do your internship in India, but you can be a collaborator in some project. So collaborative research work or collaborative environment in science in India, it's not really a new thing, but you all have to be associated with some institution or some affiliation, and then your seniors has to be there. So starting something of your own, still a dream for many in India as a
I
student.
still, sorry to interrupt, but like I still struggle a bit on that. Like it's part of the process. Like we are still affiliated. We need to be under something, under someone that has a higher degree than
Degree,
yours.
yes.
Anyway, like yeah, it's everywhere. Like it's a global stuff. Like
Global
we
scenario.
cannot avoid. Yeah, we cannot avoid that. But like it's exactly like do what you can with the resource that you have
Mhm.
now. And I will do my marketing here. Like if you are willing to go deeper in the topic, like my course is a good start. Like
Yeah.
I did this with a language that
Hmm.
someone can, because this course, okay, one of my public, like my focus public is the people who are working with space farming, but this is also a course guided for farmers,
Hmm.
terrestrial farmers. I want to
Yeah.
teach terrestrial farmers how to use space farming as a solution for their own problems, for their own farm. So
Hmm.
like this is also a way to start. And you don't need to be affiliated to any
Any
institution
institute.
or
Hmm.
something. Like it's a beginning. But
Yeah.
like how much time are you willing to invest into your biggest goal?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I must say no to some things and say
Hmm.
yes to other things.
Things.
Like there
Hmm.
were many opportunities that I had during my journey, but I needed to say, no, I cannot take this opportunity now.
Yeah.
Uh, or yes, I can take this opportunity now. Or like, okay, this is not the time that I can take this opportunity. But as I mentioned previously, like everything will happen in the right time to be happening, the exactly time that should be happening. So just chill, but keep doing. The small steps are still steps. Like that 0.01% every
Said.
day that at the end of the year will
Yeah.
be impactful. Yes.
Yeah, you have to take some baby steps towards your dream or towards your passion. And if you don't know what is your passion, then just find out and explore and try out everything. That's how I got to know about various things. That I didn't know that I can be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be, that typical scientist. I wanted to do my PhD, then postdoc, and be a scientist in a lab. But things changed out, and there were some other things for me in the world, and I ended up being an entrepreneur who's also doing a research work and having this own channel. So yes, I tried out different things, and I started from somewhere else. And I must say that I am fortunate enough to be collaborator on many projects, because I, like you, I reach out to anyone on LinkedIn and I'll be like, listen, I want your advice on this. I'm doing this. I want to be a planetary geologist. How can I start? Where can I start? And they'll share some papers with me. Okay, you can start from this. You can start from this scratch, or you can watch this YouTube channel, or you can watch this. So yeah, I reached out. So I believe you said it right, that you have to start from somewhere and you have to ask questions, be it your senior, be it your junior. You have to ask question, and it's okay to make mistakes. If that person didn't like your question, it's okay, you can reach out to some other person, and maybe to this person but some other time. But yeah, reach out to people and ask questions, and yeah, go on with your dream. Well, this wraps up to today's AADYA Geo Talks, and I am seriously thankful for to you, Devi, that you joined here and on a very short notice, and I got to experience your incredible journey through your words. And I am saying it again, you are definitely a great science communicator. You communicate your science, your knowledge, your passion. It feels like, okay, I have to be interested, because you are talking so interestingly and so passionately about your projects, about Habitat Marte, about your life and what inspired you, that it is inspiring for me as well, that this guy is really into his job, and you should be too.
If I impacted you, like this is fine for me for now.
Yeah, it has
Hopefully, it will
impacted me
impact
a
many
lot.
other people.
Yeah,
Yes.
it will. That's why I was like, okay, I have to have this person on board because I was moved by your talks. I was moved by your lecture. The lecture you mentioned for Habitat Marte, I have seen that lecture. And I know that I am not from agriculture background, but I got to know, okay, I was understanding bits and pieces. Okay, like, I can do this, I can do that. Though I was not the green hab officer at MDRS, but I still wanted to be, get something out of every field, like green hab, medical officer, and everything. So I saw that video and I realized, okay, yeah, that's interesting. So
Nice.
thank you so much for coming here and virtually. And I hope this conversation has sparked some curiosity and inspiration to everyone who's watching, and because it has to me for sure. And science is not a complex subject to everyone. That, it's not a jargon subject or it's not an alien subject. It is for some technical reasons, but it can be understanding it if you know a good science communicator, or if we venture out into science communication or talk to different scientists and early career researchers like us, you can get the hold of science. So don't be afraid of science. Science is there to help the community, and we are going to space because we want to make our lives better on earth. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Devi. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.